Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Is anyone here? Good morning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to sunny Spokane. We got a really great surprise of the weather and the beautiful river. So I want to thank you all for coming. I'm so excited that we're back. And, if you really reflect on where we are, take a look at the thermometer. We're more than halfway. So we're in a really good spot starting off this weekend. So we're going to go through our regular PowerPoint, but we want to start off with some reflection. So between last month and this month, we had a great call with the team leads and the organizers, got a lot of great feedback. We're so thankful as facilitators that you guys are flexible and always willing to give feedback and moving with us as we change the process to make it easier for you. So thank you for your feedback. Continue to give that to us as we go through the weekend. So we'll just go ahead and start talking a little bit about the guiding principles, revisiting that. Made some slight changes to the protocol, so you received that ahead of time. You have copies of that as well. We'll go through that real quickly. Make sure that everyone agrees to that. We'll remind you of the calls to action. We had a new call to action based on, again, feedback from team leads and organizers. And then we'll jump into our regular updates on where we are, public comments, and what we're doing this weekend. So again, we had a great conversation, and we think this is a great time to take a second to reflect on why you're here. So we have 2 more months left of full negotiation and 1 month of full review. Again, we're more than halfway done, so it's a great time to kind of just come back together. So I asked everyone, you have some paper, we have lots of papers on your table. I just want to take 2 minutes for everyone to silently reflect on why you're here, why you've committed so much time to this process, why you're going to continue to do that into next year. Just 1 or 2 sentences or even just a few key words. Just write them down, reflect to yourself, and then we'll come back together. All right, so why are you here? Why have you committed so much time here? Okay, so I see that most people are wrapped up, so I'll just go around and ask for volunteers from one person from each group to share out, what really drives you to be here and why you've committed so much time to this process. Anyone can raise their hand and go first. All right, if no one wants to start, I'll call on Yolanda. Awesome. Please start us off.
So the reason why we are here is to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're consistent as we provide quality care for families and children.
Thank you, Yolanda. So being consistent on providing quality care for children. Nicole, did you want to go?
I am here to help create a WAC that increases quality, but that also takes into account how providers can feasibly do this in a realistic and achievable way.
Thank you.
I think it's important for especially family child cares to be here because we are such a unique environment for your children when actually it is the most natural environment for them. So to be able to provide the health and safety and education for the children in their own home environment shares a new lens to what we'd like the WACs to look like.
Thank you. All right, licensing.
So we are here kind of representing the department in a transparent, trying to be as transparent as possible about developing rules that will support our children and the providers in Washington State.
Thank you. Parents?
Okay, so why we're all here is I like to hear the transparency part, but we want to make sure that regardless on our income or lack thereof, that our kid's going to be equally supported in whatever program. And then I'm going to let a parent say why it's important for her to be here.
It's important for me to be here. Sharice is actually the one that brought this to my attention back when we all started, and it interested me, but everything that my children have been through in-home facilities, in child care centers, I know that my children aren't the only ones, and I want to be able to advocate for them so that they have an equal opportunity.
Thanks everyone for sharing. So appreciate all the feedback. We'll go to the next slide and remind you that a lot of what you said we talked about in May, right? We talked a lot about why you're here, what our guiding principles are. And we often, in the past few months, have gone over this slide, kind of just, we flashed up and take it away. So I want to take another second, given all of the comments you just said, to identify where your comments fit into these core values. Why are we all spending this time together focusing on this work? So over here, Head Start ECAP, I heard making sure you're supporting high quality care. So if we take a look around, one of the first ones up here, supporting children and families in quality. We also put sustainability in here. So I think that speaks to centers and family home as well, thinking about how you can make sure that you're supporting children in high quality care within the proper settings, the 2 settings, or 3 really, 3 and 4 settings, all the different variations of settings that you provide. Parents talked about supporting families. Let's see where that fits. I see collaboration here. So you guys talked a lot about collaboration over here in licensing as well, being transparent, making sure that that's collaborative and that transparency process. So we have that here in collaboration. Anyone else, did I miss your comments? Okay. So at the end of the day, what I did here is that all of these things that you've said around all focus in the middle of child development, health, and safety. And so this graphic is very strategic, right? You all told us that at the end of the day, given all of these things, at the end of the day, it's all about children's health and safety. So if you all agree with that, I want to make sure you keep that in the back of your minds as we walk through this weekend and the next 2 months. Again, we have this month and next month, January, as our full negotiation, and then in February, we're reviewing everything. So as we're finishing out the almost half of our regulations, to keep these core principles in mind, they're not just here to be a graphic, they're really here to ground us and to drive what we do every day. Just a reminder. Anyone else have any comments about really helping us focus and remembering where we are and why we're here? Okay, great. So all of that, of course, feeds to the code of conduct. We know that our core principles are all listed, and we're going to together focus on these codes of conduct as we share our opinions and relay them and negotiate the process. So I won't read these to you again, but I do want to point them back out. They are listed in your documents. We've had some breaches before, and so we want to make sure that the protocol takes into account an opportunity for you to express when there is a breach in the code of conduct. So that's always been there, but we've defined that more fully. So we'll go through that right now. That's the next slide. Yeah. So at this point, let's flip over. Everyone has a copy of the protocol. These have track changes in them. Oh. Share one in the middle. Okay, so while we're doing that, if everyone could pull out their updated protocol, we'll walk through that and the major changes. Is that better? You're still squinting at me, Heather. Do you want us to pull the? We can adjust when the sun changes too. Okay, so I'm looking at the updated protocol. There are really only a few major changes. So everyone could flip with me to page 6 of 13. That's the first place that we've made a change. Actually, can we put it up on the screen, Lori, in case it's okay? So if you could follow me to page 6 of 13, this is where we talk about the code of conduct. What we've added in is if there's a breach in the code of conduct. So I think we all kind of agree to that loosely, but now we have it in writing. That at any point, if any of us as facilitators or anyone in the room feels that there is a breach in the code of conduct, to talk to your team lead, and the team lead will call for a break. So that's something we haven't formalized, but we felt after having some discussion was important to formalize. So again, to take that process through your team lead so that no one feels, so it's a group decision, it's not, no one has to individually say that they feel like there's a breach. So it's not meant for a team caucus. It's meant to take a full break, an unscheduled break, and at which point the team lead or the facilitator that saw the breach of code of conduct will come to the facilitators and we'll figure out a solution. If you look right below that, is a section about sanctions. So this has actually been here the entire time. We've worked together since May, the sanction process. So now we're formalizing it again, giving you a more formalized opportunity to call for a breach, and here are the steps that we'll consider, depending on how severe that breach is and how that person who called the breach feels how severe it is. So you have to describe what was breached about the protocol, so it could be specific code of conduct or any other portion of the protocol. And then we'll take through these steps to figure out what the action may be, whether it's apology or some sort of other resolution. Any questions about that process? Do you need to close the blind a little more, Tyler? Okay. So then we'll move on to the next major change, which you'll find on page 9. So on page 9, we added what's called a sidebar. So this is an additional call to action. So the difference between a sidebar and a team caucus when you call for it is that you'll call for it like you do with a team caucus, tell us how much time you need. But this is to differentiate the difference between a team caucus and a sidebar. So when you're doing team caucus, it's meant for just your teams to talk, right? Just you. And then a sidebar will be specifically called if you want a conference between teams. So if you, through a conversation, through the discussion as a group, already automatically know you want to target a certain group to talk with, then you can go ahead and initially call for a sidebar. You don't have to do a team caucus first. It's up to you how you want to do that order. You could also say, I want a 2-minute team caucus followed by a 2-minute sidebar. And so we'll use the bell, as usual, timer. When the first 2 minutes goes up, we can ask you if you're done with team caucus, and then we'll move into sidebar. So this is really to protect you all as teams, to have your time together, to really have your caucus and not have anyone interject in the middle of that, because sometimes we understand you need to process what's on the table before you have a different proposal. So I'll pause again for any questions. You look like you have a question, Tyler, or a concern? No. Okay. Please go ahead.
I have a question about the sidebar. Is the sidebar used for clarification? Like if a team has a certain thing that is a concern of theirs and we want an explanation or a reason why?
Yeah, this is for the times where we don't think we need to send everything to TA resolution. It seems like a simple change for a certain group, but then maybe a different group has a concern that's more major. So to avoid sending it out, perhaps you could just go straight into a sidebar, and that one group that has the concern can talk to the group that made what they believe is a small change. That's one example of why you might use it, not the only example. Any other questions about when or why you would use a sidebar? Okay. Again, us facilitators will help we'll call for one if we feel that there should be one, but we ask that you all help us in that process. Same with the breach of code of conduct. As facilitators, will help facilitate that. But this is a team process, so we want to ask you all to hold each other accountable as well. Yep, Laurie?
I guess I have my own. The sidebar was also added in as a request from the team leads so that side conversations could happen team to team, but it would be designated time so that if the team wasn't talking amongst themselves, they weren't being interrupted. And trying to keep some order and make everybody stay focused on their private conversations with their teams without interruption, but still allow those conversations to happen.
Thanks, Laurie. It's a good point. So feel free to use all of these call to actions at any point. That's actually, we have a slide on that to show you the calls of action. But even with a code of conduct breaching, if you don't want to, maybe you don't feel comfortable calling for a full break, go ahead and call for a team caucus then. Right? Make sure that your team can get together and make a decision whether or not there was a breach in the code of conduct. We also encourage you, if you need to use the space outside to meet if it is more of a sensitive topic or issue that your team wants to talk about. So we know this room is larger than last month, but you guys are very close to each other. Okay. The last change is on page 11 of 13, and all this is to allow for the team leads to resolve the breach in code of conduct. So that's just more of a housekeeping to make sure that the whole protocol matches. Okay, I don't see any other questions or concerns. So at this point, if you agree to adopt this code of conduct, I'll ask you to stand to formally agree to the new protocol. Everybody, because everybody is following the code of conduct. Organizers, team leads, facilitators, Dell staff as well. We're all following this new code of conduct. Okay? All right, thank you, everyone. We'll follow this from now on. Okay, so this is just a fun graphic reminder of what your options are now moving forward. At any point, you can call for a TA resolution. You can call to move straight into consensus voting. To table the regulation, you can table it to later this weekend, to next month, or to February, the end. And as a reminder, what we discussed last month is that really the only reason why you would table until February is if you feel like this is one of those regulations that your team or another team is going to die on the sword on. Is that how you called it? I don't know if we have the sword with us this month. If you feel like that's something that's just not going to be able to be resolved, we'll make sure we put it to the end. Not that we, it'll stay on the list, but that we don't spend too much time on something that a group doesn't feel strongly that they can reach consensus. Now you have the sidebar option, and anytime you have the team caucus option. And I guess what we don't have on here is that you can always call for a break as well, an unscheduled break. Again, mostly for the breach of code of conduct. Yep.
Break for an indefinite amount of time to like regain composure, if you will. I guess how do you then also say I need 5 minutes, that kind of a thing?
Yep,
Okay.
with any of these, with the sidebar, the team caucus, well, anything, you have to state the time, right?
Okay.
Even with the tabled regulation, you have to state when we're coming back to it. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
just to make sure that we're helping you stay on track.
Awesome.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next slide, no worries. This is just a reminder of the additional protocol updates. So at any point, as facilitators, we were asked from the groups to provide more of that structure as well and call out any breaches. But I do ask again that you also hold each other accountable. And now you have a formalized option to do that. Okay. So we've already accepted it. This is a reminder that we want to reach win-win opportunities. Thinking back on our orange example, if a group wants just the peel and you want just the fruit, to try to ask probing questions to get there. And we've also been asked as facilitators to do a little bit more of that probing. So we'll try to help you with that as well. Okay, here's our fine thermometer updates. Again, fully negotiated, 112 sections. Awesome job. You have 6 in the queue for TA resolution, 6 tabled, and here's the overview of where we are today with 63. So really great progress. Feel really good about this weekend and where we're going to go. We've put the thermometer in an easy place for you to see this time. So. Okay, as a reminder, you always have your inboxes, but you also got a lot of public comments back this month. That's actually summarized on the next slide. I'm not going to read these to you because we are running short on time, but you also received the summary and the full comments before this meeting. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Okay, reminder of what we're doing this weekend. So you also have this document on your table. We thought it'd be helpful. This is what we follow as facilitators. We thought it'd be helpful for you to also see what we're doing. So this is consensus queue for November. So you'll see the order that we're going to follow. This time around, we are going slightly out of order, but this is due to the really great hard work that the prep teams did this month. We removed ones that we know we need to go to TA resolution immediately. So the first table is where we're going to start. Anything with an asterisk means that it either came from a TA resolution or needs to go out to one, or a portion of it needs to. Okay, and then there are additional sections we can go into if we finish our current sections. And then there's a running list of in queue for TA resolution. So what's important to know about this section is that these, again, were ones that the prep teams, so each of you groups, went through and made some proposed changes. And as a group, everyone decided that this should go immediately to TA resolution instead of to the full group. Again, this is to speed up the process because we already know that there are some major changes. So if you don't feel like following along, no worries, we'll do it. But if you feel like you want to make sure you know where we're going next, this is what this is for. Okay. All right. Also, we have our dates for January and February. January 5th through 7th in CTAC was the decision from your survey. And then February 16th through 18th. For February, there was a request to bring Dr. Feeney to the meetings. We're doing the full review and the weighted exercise review. So that is the date that he is available that weekend.
So the centers team for that weekend, and I've let Lori know this, the 16th and 18th really does not work for our team almost at all. Both our team leads cannot be there, and of the team that we have here and the rest of our team, we would only be able to field 2, maybe 3 people tops. And we don't feel like that's really enough people to contribute given all the different perspectives on our team and the number of people that we have. The other weekend that works for us is the first weekend in February or the last weekend in February. So we just wanted to throw that out to the group today, and I've been emailing with Dale a little bit about that as well.
So I will point out that the first weekend that you talked about, first weekend of February, was the Tide weekend for everyone. The problem with that is that the 16th and 18th was the only weekend that Dr. Feeney could come. So I think because we are already up on time, maybe with that information everyone can discuss with their teams, and then we'll bring this back either at the end of the day today or early tomorrow. Does that work? Okay, thank you.
I would defer to whoever wants Dr. Feeney here, but for us, the holiday weekend is a little bit of a challenge. So we would prefer to not have Dr. Feeney and have more people.
Okay, so do other teams want to weigh in? Again, I don't think we need to open up for discussion so that we can move forward, but we can, if you want to weigh in, have the teams reflect on what your perspective is, then we can come back to this. Yeah. I know that parents specifically were looking for a holiday weekend, so I'll just put that out there. You guys can weigh in if you want.
Can we talk about this a little bit later?
Yep.
So we can discuss it?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
If no one else has any other comments, then we'll move into reaching consensus. Yep, Nicole?
If we need to retake the survey, in past surveys, we have, as groups, done it, and it allowed us to see what weekends didn't work for groups. This survey was a little bit different, and it was just like a most popular. It didn't allow to say this weekend doesn't work. So that might be, if it does go back to a survey, allowing that to also be part of it so that we eliminate weekends that are kind of off the table for whatever group it might be.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we'll allow everyone to meet with your groups, make some decisions, and we'll come back to this. Okay. So right now, I'd like to just make sure we go around to each group and name who the voting members are again, your name and whether or not you're a voting member. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. One last update logistically. Here are the updates to the timeline. And actually, I don't know if you guys if Lori, do you want to talk through this? Or Luba? Do you want to talk through this?
Because we have a shortage of time, I guess. We're already over time. So, as you remember, we've been discussing the timeline, and this timeline represents what been proposed by negotiated rulemaking, what been presented at ELAC and supported by ELAC, and what been presented to the department leadership and been supported by the department leadership. So, with the idea of completing the negotiated rulemaking and public comments next February of 2018, and also knowing of the additional action steps that we have to make, finalizing the rules, filing the rules, going for the 45 days period of public review, final public review and comments. We're looking at having a final subset of WACs somewhere around May of 2018. So then we will be able to have the final version filed, approved. I don't know all of the legal words that Lori will know better, as she's a guru on rulemaking. The main point is that we will start communicating and training in August of 2018, and we will take in a year as been proposed before the implementation of the rules. So implementation of the rules, as you see the final point on the right, August 2019, rules implementation begins. So we right now already started working on communication plan and outreach plan and training plan, and we will start engaging all of the parties involved to this process. So if you are fine with this timeline, we've just been waiting for you to take a look at it. We will finalize it. We also would like to put early achievers and ECAP activities into it because, as you know, they're also working in parallel, adapting and updating and reviewing early achievers and ECAP requirements and performance standards. So we would like to add the activities to the timeline, and then it will be finalized.
So for that August of 2018 until August of 2019, is that a time where we're kind of testing the waters and we're seeing if this works, if this doesn't work, or making slight adjustments?
Yes, thank you for reminding about the pilot. So yes, it's a pilot period also. We are looking at how to focus pilot on validating the weights, validating the enforcement system, validating the scoring system. So we will talk about it more in January when we will have a better proposal for the pilot for you. But yes, it also will be during this period of time when we will pilot implementation of the rules.
I just had a quick question. What is the finalize of the early achievers ECAP progression? Because that has nothing to do with the WACs, does it?
Yes, it's what we've been trying to say.
It's
that
supposed to be
it's
separate.
It's separate and it's not separate. So I would like to remind you that there are two alignments happening simultaneously. One is what we're doing right now. It's what I will call horizontal alignment when we're aligning licensing rules, family homes, and centers. And another alignment is a vertical alignment, developing quality progression from the foundational licensing rules up through early achievers up to ECAP and early achievers levels 4 and 5. So this is also, the work is also going, and they're in some way, early achievers and ECAP waiting for us to finalize the foundational rules, so they will be able to create a progression that very much aligned. There are no duplications, language is consistent, all of it that we discussed before. It's why we have a placeholder over here. Just know that they are working on it. And it's what I mentioned, saying that why it's not a final timeline, it's a draft to present to you, so to show that we added additional time as you proposed. At the same time, there are no ECAP and early achievers activities on this timeline yet. So let us finalize it, if you find from the licensing perspective, and we will add additional action steps per early achievers and ECAP timeline.
It says October of 2017, so that means last month?
So it means, yes, they finalize the drafts of the progression. My understanding is, and many people have been involved in it, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. What they've been doing till October, they've been organizing communities and bringing to the community feedback, early achievers and ECAP requirements and performance standards, collecting feedback. This is what it means, that they finalize these activities, and now they will start working on developing the final version of it. Because they collected your feedback, now they have to input your feedback into whatever been proposed and come back with a final version. Yeah, so this is what it says. It's a placeholder to show that it's been happening. So yes, I do believe that early achievers and ECAP will open additional layer after whatever community involvement, after whatever been collected through the feedback process will be embedded into what they proposed. I'm more than sure it will happen. Again, it's why what you're looking at, it's about licensing, and we put early achievers and ECAP as a placeholder to make sure that we remember that it's also a progression happening, not only licensing rules. Any other questions about the timeline?
For people that have questions about early achievers and ECAP progression, I'm actually the person from Thrive who is running the community feedback engagement process. So I'm both doing this and its sister project sort of thing that Lou was talking about. So if you have questions about what's been going on in that process and what are the next steps, I'm a good resource. So feel free to pull me on a break and ask me anything.
Thank you, Jess. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Liba. All right, so I wanted to do a quick, again, name, voting member, yes or no, around the group. We'll start over here on our facilitators. You'll see that we have a new member of our facilitating group. Just like you, we're rotating people in as they're available. So I'll let Renee introduce herself.
Good morning. My name is Renee Benson. I'm a senior consultant with Public Consulting Group, and I am a nationwide facilitator and trainer. And thank you for having me and allowing me to be here today.
Hi, I'm Zane Wire. You all have met me before. I'm a consultant at PCG, and glad to be back.
Nicole Sohn, yes, I am.
Hillary Prentice, yes, voting member.
Janet Villela, yes.
Michelle Butler Miles, yes.
Rachel Atchison, yes.
Susie Hansen, yes.
Deetra Miller, yes.
Jess Harvey, no, I'm the coordinator of the centers team.
Sherry Helton, yes.
Claudette Lindquist, yes.
Katie Warren, yes.
Allison Kretzinger, yes.
Marcy Salinas, yes.
Yolanda Ariano, yes.
Susana Sandoval, yes.
Pam Grigsby Jones, yes.
Karen Matson, yes.
Vanessa Maanyo French, yes.
Carolyn Solitaire, yes.
Kelsey Garcia, yes.
Christina Cummins, yes.
Sharice Rhodes, yes.
Kevin Rutherford, yes.
Elisa Yair, no, an assistant for the parent group.
Gabriella, yes.
Christiana Clinton, yes.
Victoria Hilt, yes.
Judy Bunkelman, yes.
Yvonne Lewis, yes.
Eva Freemuth, yes.
Brenda Martinez, yes.
Lysian Brogan, yes.
Kieran Christensen, yes.
Travis Hansen, yes.
Debbie Groff, yes.
McGonigal, yes.
Mary Curry, yes.
Guadalupe Magayan, yes.
Carol Gibbs, yes.
Holly Lindsay, yes.
Tyler Bass, no. And Chris Price is going to join us. She's come from the airport right now, and she's voting.
And Dell staff.
Hi, I'm Tyler Farmer, not a voting member, just Dell technical help.
And I'm Bob Kerwin, just I'm a staff member.
Lyuba Bezborodnikova, Department of Learning, Assistant Director, overseeing the process and providing technical assistance. No.
Of course, we have Lori here, and we have Amy in the back from Dell helping us with note-taking. Thanks, everyone, for going through that with me. So we are ready to get started. It's a tough question to ask you right off the bat, but again, I mentioned that the prep teams, for those of you who are involved, know that there are a number of regulations that you already wanted to send out to TA Resolution. Would you want to go ahead and do that now and send your groups out? Or do you want to start with full consensus reaching? So we have one comment here and then one from Nicole.
I propose that we get started on full and then maybe break out this afternoon. But I think it helps us to get the energy going that after a break, it takes a little while for everybody to get back into it. So that's just we'll go either way, but.
Thanks.
And then is the group going to just be tackling these in order? Is that
the full group?
The
yes.
full. Sorry, the subgroup that's going to go out?
Yes.
The ones that have the asterisk?
We're going to go to the running list of in-queue for TA resolution. That's the.
No, sorry, I mean the
page to look at.
subgroup that is going to go, the ones that we've predetermined.
Yep.
Are they just going to take any and all of them? Or we're
No,
not?
we're going to go in this specific order. So it's on the second page.
So-
It's really page 3 at the top. So you can see what's coming up. And what
But we're not
topics.
going to say like, okay, group, go do the 0015, now come back. Go do the 0331. We're not going to send them in and out. It's going to be, hey, group, you're going to go take this list. Is that what's going to happen?
No, we're going to
Okay.
go in and out depending on the topic. That way you guys can switch out depending on
Who-
the topic.
okay,
who's
that's,
out of the
that's
room.
what I was getting at.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
So just to clarify for anyone who did not follow that question, number 3, running list of queue for TA resolution. You'll see the first one is 0015 license absence, and the second one is prohibitive behavior. So we'll send a group out to do licensee absences. They'll negotiate, come back. Then when they come back, we'll send a different group for prohibited behavior. So you can switch out those folks that are more well-versed or have more comments on that specific section. Yes.
So for me, one of the struggles in the small groups that go out is the facilitation and kind of sticking to that consensus model. Is there a plan to support that? I think it would make us more efficient.
So your request is to make sure that each group has their time to speak, that we follow basically what's in here in the full group.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes we're just kind of all over the place and it's not always productive. So I don't know who would be responsible. I don't know if we need to assign somebody when we go out or if there's a staff person that can do that.
So Zane will be going out for the first few for the resolution. So if the group wants, we can follow the group by group comment process. And then once language is reached, the group by group consensus 5 method. Parents, if you could pass the mic, yeah.
Just to clarify, I think maybe something that could help is having a facilitator, but maybe one of the Dell note takers to come as well and be an additional person to keep track of the changes that are discussed. That's just a suggestion.
So we typically send at least one Dell staff with a facilitator. So we'll send Debbie
Okay.
or Tyler out with you.
Okay, great.
For 2 purposes, one to take notes, but also to answer any questions on site. We actually know there are already some that you'll want feedback on right now. So then we can kind of split up Debbie and Tyler. One of you guys stay here and one go out to the resolution each time. Okay. All right, so I think everyone, unless anyone disagrees, we'll start together in the full group. And then in the afternoon, we'll start tackling our TA resolution list. Okay, with no objections to that, let's get started. Sure. All right, so we're going to start in Intent and Authority 0016. Again, if you're following along, you can see that's inactive status. This was negotiated in June and tabled, and negotiated by a small group in August, so it's been a little bit. That's a good thing to point out if anyone wants to follow along about where it's hit. Last month we talked about how many times it's been touched. You can follow along to see exactly how many times and where it's been touched as a reminder here on this list. I'll say them out loud for you too. Okay, so 0016. This is inactive status, voluntary and temporary closures. Number 1, if a center or family home licensee plans to temporarily close their early learning program for more than 30 calendar days, and this closure is a departure from the program's regular schedule, an early learning provider must submit a notification to go into inactive status to the department at least 2 days prior to planned closure. Notifications for inactive status must include A, the date the early learning program will cease operating, B, a reason why the licensee is notifying inactive status, and C, a projected date the early learning program will reopen at a weight of 1. Number 2, the requirements of this section do not apply to licensed early learning programs that have temporary closure beyond 30 calendar days as part of their regular schedule, such as programs based on the school year or seasonal occupation, a weight of NA. Number 3, a licensee may not request inactive status during their first initial licensing period of 6 months, unless for an emergency approved by Dell. That is a weight of NA. Number 4, an early learning provider must inform parents the licensee plans to temporarily close their program at a weight of 1. The new 5, an early learning program is responsible for notifying the department of changes to program status, including voluntary closures, new household members or staff, or other program changes. Program status updates must also be completed in the department's electronic system, weighted of 1. 6, background check rules in Chapter 170.06 WAC, including allegations of child abuse or neglect, or remain in effect during inactive status, a weight of NA. 7, after receiving a notification in more than 30 days of closure or an active request form, the department will A, place the licensee on inactive status, B, close the SSPS provider number, C, inform the licensee that the license is inactive, D, notify the following programs of the voluntary inactive status: Working Connection Child Care Subsidy Program, USDA Child Adult, CACFP, Early Achievers, ECAP, Head Start, and Child Care Aware of Washington, a weight of NA. 8, a licensee is responsible for maintaining annual compliance requirements during inactive status pursuant to, and the reference will be cited, weight of 1. This is a long one. Number 9, if inactive status exceeds 6 months within a 12-month period, the department must close the license for failing to comply with RCW 262. The licensee must reapply for licensing pursuant to RCW 263, the weight of NA. 10, if the department attempts 3 monitoring visits within a 3-month span prior to monitoring due date, but the early learning provider has not been available to permit the visit, the department must attempt to contact the provider by phone while on premises during the 3rd attempt, and then may pursue enforcement actions, the weight of NA. 11, when a licensee is ready to reopen their program after a temporary closure of 30 days, they must provide to the department written notification of intent to reopen. The department shall conduct a health and safety check of the early learning program within 10 business days of the written notification to reopen. If the early learning program is still in compliance with the department's rules and regulations, the department will activate the license, reactivate the SSPS provider number, and notify Working Connections, Child Care Subsidy Program, CACFP, Early Achievers, ECAP, Head Start Grantee, and Child Care Aware of Washington the license was reactivated, a weight of NA. All right, so we'll scroll back up to just number 1, about temporary closures for more than 30 days, a submission of a notification, a weight of 1. So I'll measure consensus on 1, language and weight. Family home, all 5s. Dell licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Great. Number 2, the big changes from 14 to 30 at a weight of NA. So measure consensus on number 2. Centers, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Dell licensing, all 5s. Family home, all 5s. Great. Number 3, licensee may not request during your first initial license. Weight of NA. Number 3. Centers are all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Dell licensing, all 5s. And family home, all 5s. 4, you must inform parents of this closure, this temporary closure, a weight of 1. Number 4. Centers, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Family, all 5s. Okay, number 5. You must provide notification to the department, and it must be in the electronic system, a weight of 1. Centers, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Family home, all 5s. 6, your background check rules apply and remain in effect at a weight of NA. Centers, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Family home, all 5s. Okay, number 7. These are things that the department will do after they receive notification, and that's a weight of NA. Centers, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Is that a block? Yes. All right. Please state your concern.
On 7B, close the SSPS provider number. This does not allow for a provider to dispute an underpayment. This also, if a provider wants to provide family, friends, and neighbor care during the voluntary closure, this doesn't allow them to be paid during that time either.
So do you have recommended language changes?
That if there is some way to, I just don't want it closed. The SSPS provider number should not be closed. That should be eliminated.
Okay, Dell licensing?
First of all, if there is an underpayment, it can always be opened back up so that that can be paid and then closed. But in addition, if a licensed provider is choosing to not do licensed care but wants to do family, friend, and neighbor, the SSPS number for the licensed program would be closed, but they could be open with the same number as a family, friend, and neighbor provider. But you can't both be inactive as a licensed provider and be paid as a licensed provider. You need to then be paid as a family, friend, and neighbor unless you're meeting all licensing requirements. So that is the intent of this, and the way the SSPS number is set up, it is possible to be paid as a relative while you are inactive as a family home center or a center.
I would like a sidebar. I have a question.
Okay. So we'll put 2 minutes on the clock for a sidebar, and other teams can team caucus as you wish.
I was like, sure. I'm almost finishing my coconut water and I think I'm going to my coffee after that.
You will go to that. And then all the way to the, you would go down all the way to the high, whatever. I don't know.
Okay. That's real small. Or just a margin, I guess, too.
It looks like more time is needed, so we'll add another, oh, nope. Perfect. Okay, Dell licensing, will you report out? Great.
We would ask that kind of in the parking lot, maybe for training or just to address as a concern that it is, the SSPS number being closed should not stop somebody from being paid for a service they provided prior to the inactive status. Or a different service that was provided and just didn't get authorized in time. So this is okay the way it is as long as that concern is addressed.
Okay, thank you. So Zane is writing that on the board. I also want to remind you that there are just a few copies of the parking lot on your table. We wanted to make sure to, we've been telling you that we've been keeping track. This is a confirmation that we have, and if you see anything missing, let us know. We're going to continue to add to this as we go. Sure. 1 minute team caucus on the clock. Family home is good, so we'll come back.
Yeah, smart.
So in that case, I'm going to measure consensus again on number 7. We'll try that again. Okay, so family home, we have 4s and 1 3. So we'll come back to that. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECOP, all 5s, and centers, all 5s. So do you want to restate your concern? We'll make sure that it's noted on as a comment bubble.
My concern is what's being addressed in the parking lot, that I want to make sure that if a provider needs to reopen her SSPS account, that that's done in a timely and effective manner.
Thank you. All right, so the good news is we can still see number 8 while she's typing. So let's try to measure consensus on number 8. It's that the licensee must maintain annual compliance requirements during the inactive status at a weight of 1. So measure consensus on number 8 down at the bottom. All right, centers all 5s, Head Start ECOP all 5s, parents all 5s, licensing all 5s, and family home all 5s. All right, so let's move on to number 9. This is if it exceeds 6 months within a 12-month period, it must reapply at a weight of NA. So I'll measure consensus number 9. Centers are all 5s, Head Start ECOP are all 5s, parents are all 5s, licensing all 5s, and family home all 5s. 10, this is about the number of attempts, and a phone call must be made on the 3rd attempt before any corrective actions, enforcement actions are taken at a weight of NA. So measure consensus on number 10. Okay, so family home 4s and 1 3, licensing all 5s, parents all 5s, Head Start ECOP all 5s, and centers all 5s. So we'll go back to Kat to state your concern.
This was discussed among our team at the very beginning about these notifications when they come and no one answers the door. And for me, I'm able to live with this, but I would like to see a phone call made at every attempt. We would like to see a phone call made at every attempt.
Okay, so I'll state that concern that family homes would like to see phone calls at each attempt and not just the 3rd one. Okay, so number 11, when you reopen, and these are the steps that Dell will take to reactivate the program, the licensee. So I'll measure consensus on number 11, a weight of NA. Centers, all fives. Head Start UCAP, all fives. Parents, all fives. Licensing, all fives. And Family Home, all fives. All right, nice job. Great first one. Thank you, everyone. Zane will add that to the thermometer. So now we're on 0030 non-discriminations. I'm still under intent and authority. So this one has some boxes around it. So whenever there's a box, if you can recall that, it's a Dell Technical Assistance rating, and all of the track changes came from either a subgroup or a prep team phone call.
Okie dokie, here we go. 17300 0030 non-discrimination. Subsection 1. Early learning programs are defined by state and federal law as places of public accommodation that must A, not discriminate in employment practices or client services based on race, creed, ethnicity, national origin, marital status, gender, sexual orientation, class, age, religion, or ability, and B, comply with the requirements of the Washington Law Against Discrimination, Chapter 4960 RCW, and the ADA. Is there anything else left in that now? Is that now 2, or is that C? Oh, okay, I see now that. C, an early learning program must have and follow a written non-discrimination policy addressing at least the factors listed in this section. That's it? In a weight of 1. 5, my bad. Sorry, we're starting here today. Okay, we started with centers, I think, last time. Let's start with family homes. I see 5s. 5s in licensing, 5s in parents, 5s in Head Start, and we want in centers a 1-minute caucus. Yeah, so what shows up there? Do final show mark. Yeah. That works. That should work.
Why do you make it so hard? I know that they just put it in their app and they just it's just feeling. Right? That's what they do. That's what they do. It does it on and us, if we try to go through that, it's a different whole and we should because they do. And that's why it's because even ours, she was doing that. He was like, you should be able to.
Bing bong.
Like, this is just the way they speak.
Okay, centers. Do we need more time? Okay, and the centers are going to make a comment. Let's add another 60 seconds. Let's do a sidebar with these guys over here, Dell staff, and where'd Tyler Farmer? Where's my lawyer? Let's tentatively time this for 2 minutes.
fine. Doesn't get you. I'm not buying it.
And she did. She skated, and then she's like, whoever's the volunteer for this is in kind. She was running all over doing things. So then when I realized that, I should not to.
There's B is more of a catch-all than A. A talks about specific instances, and then we say, but you also have to comply with these general non-discrimination statutes in ways that maybe is not captured. And so it's more of a, it is a citation to, hey, here's the non-discrimination policy federally and statewide. But that's generally just not what it's structured.
I wonder where she puts that. I don't know.
49 I would have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it is. Right. Okay. Good enough. Sure.
Good timing. Alrighty. We are coming back now. Centers are going to show their consensus or make a comment or, okay. We see entirely threes from centers. Go ahead.
So my question and concern was just making sure that A and B are, I mean, they seem to me to be duplicative. And my question was, does A, does it go beyond what is listed in the RCW, or is it exactly the same language? And if so, why would we have it listed twice?
And my comment has to do with protecting religious organizations that are running early learning programs who rely on hiring practices that match the religion that they're that they represent. So if you are an Islamic school, then you are hiring Islamic teachers, and I understand there's a differential between whether or not you're taking state money, but I just want it to be on the record that there is a protected. My schools are, a lot of them are religious, and there is some protection there to be able to hire accordingly.
Thank you. Do we want to go through and take consensus one more time for the other groups as well? I'm seeing no's. Okay. Cool. All right.
Okay, so that was, for now, the last one on intent and authority. We're going to go to child outcomes now, 0055. Child outcome 0055. This one was negotiated in June. Consensus was reached on the language. The weights were sent to a small group, and then at that point, they added additional language in that small group in August. 0055. What's the problem? You don't have it. So this is the document we sent out in the email, 0055, developmental screening communications to parents or guardians. Yeah, please bear with us this month that we're going to jump around because of the prep team. Again, try to be more efficient. Because the email that sent out was the master full compiled.
So we actually sent two. We had sent one at the end of the last negotiation weekend, right after that. Then there was the prep call, and after the prep call, we sent an updated version as of November 10th, and that's what we're using here.
Okay, anyone else need help getting to the right page on your personal copy? Okay, I'll go ahead and get started reading. If you need some help, we'll make sure we get that for you, or maybe the groups can help each other. So 0055 is called Developmental Screening, Communication to Parents or Guardians. All right, so there's only two sections here, subsections. Number 1, an early learning provider must inform parents or guardians about the importance of developmental screenings for each child from birth through age 5. That was changed to a weight of 3. 2, if not conducted on site, an early learning provider must share information with parents or guardians about organizations that conduct developmental screenings, such as local businesses, school districts, healthcare providers, specialists, or resources listed on Dell's website. That is also a weight of 3. So I'll measure consensus on just number 1 at a weight of 3. Come back. Family home, all 5s. Dell licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. All right, number 2. This is referring people to resources at a weight of 3. Measure consensus on number 2. Licensing is all 5s. Head Start ECAP are all 5s. Centers are all 5s. Parents are all 5s. And family home, all 5s. Awesome. Breezing through these. Nice job.
Hello. Okay, we are on 17300-0065. School readiness and family engagement activities. Subsection 1. At least once per calendar year, an early learning provider must supply to parents or guardians kindergarten or school readiness materials. Weight number 3. Subsection 2. These materials must be similar or relevant material posted online by OSPI or the department or other equivalent entities such as National ECE accrediting bodies, and may address A, kindergarten transition activities if a child is ready to transition to kindergarten, and B, developmentally appropriate local school and school district activities designed to engage families. No weight. We're going to start with Head Start ECAP this time. Okay. I'm sorry, on just subsection 1, yeah. 5s, and then 5s with parents I'm seeing, 5s with DEL, 5s with families, and 5s with centers. Subsection 2, I'm going to start with parents. 5s with parents, 5s with Dell, 5s with families, and 5s with parents. I'm getting all tongue-tied here. Centers, 5s with Head Start ECAP. Cool. Yeah.
That's all of child outcomes. That was all of child outcomes. So now we can move into family engagement and support. That is 0080. That's where we'll start. Family support self-assessment. Okay. Number 1, an early learning provider must assess their program within 1 year of being licensed or within 6 months of the date the section becomes effective to identify ways to support the families of enrolled children. A provider must complete the Strengthening Families Program self-assessment or an equivalent assessment applicable to the early learning program type, center or family home, and keep documentation of completion. It's a weight of 1. That is it. It's just one section, one subsection. Family homes are all 5s, licensing all 5s, parents all 5s, Head Start ECAP centers all 5s. Is that true? Centers, are you all 5s? Okay. Okay, there's 1 3. And then Head Start ECAP, we have 3. So we'll start with centers concern and then Head Start ECAP.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to note that there is a lot of public comment from centers that have problems with this because of the component in early achievers and wanting to make sure that the alignment isn't redundant, that maybe you don't have to do it in early achievers and in the WAC, and just spelling out a little bit more what that equivalent assessment would look like for clarity.
Thank you. Head Start ECAP.
I blame him. This is his fault. We're okay with this language, but I just wanted to make a note that we'll be requesting a variance on this because this is really super embedded in all of our work and we do self-assessments all the time.
Okay, thank you. With that, we've reached consensus. Nice work. We'll move on then to 0085.
Okay. 0085 is coming up as soon as Lori marks this down as a very sunny spot. I think tomorrow we're going to shift things just a little bit so we're not all staring at the sun in the morning. Also, break at 10:15. Do we want to talk about that real quick?
Yes. There's supposed to be one 5 minutes ago, but because we started late, we thought we could have our break at 10:15.
Any issues with that? Okay. So 0085, Family Partnerships and Communication. Subsection 1, an early learning provider must attempt to communicate with families to identify individual children's developmental goals. No wait. Subsection 2, an early learning provider must determine how the program can best accommodate each child's individual characteristics, strengths, and needs. An early learning provider must attempt to communicate with each child's family upon enrollment and annually thereafter to obtain information about a child's developmental, behavioral, health, linguistic, cultural, social, and other relevant information. A, when appropriate, attempt to discuss with parents or guardians information including, but not limited to, 1, a child's strength in areas of development, health issues, special needs, and other concerns. 2, family routines or events, approaches to parenting, family beliefs, culture, language, and child rearing practices. 3, internal transitions within the early learning program and transitions to external services or programs as necessary. 4, collaboration between the provider and the parent or guardian in behavior management. And 5, a child's progress at least 2 times per year. C, communicate the importance of regular attendance for the child. D, upon request, attempt to give parents or guardians information regarding questions or concerns. E, give families opportunities to share their language and culture in the early learning program. F, arrange a confidential time and space for individual conversations regarding children as needed. Wait 3. And so previous subsection 3 has been stricken. Now, Lori. Roll up a little bit here. 4, an early learning provider must, and we scroll down to what I believe that B should be an A now. Nope, there we go. Communicate verbally or in writing. 1, provider changes, drop off and pick up arrangements as needed. And 2, changes in off-site activities. And then we are going on to what looks like previous section G, now should be C, allow parents or guardians access to their child during normal hours of operation, except as excluded by court order. Wait number 5. So that one's a little bit complicated, but let's start up with subsection 1. Wait of NA. I beg your pardon? Go ahead.
I would like a 2-minute team caucus, please.
2-minute team caucus. Debbie. Lori is requesting your presence. I've grown to. Family homes have actually finished up, so let's roll back. Family homes would like to go ahead and make their comment.
Our team is requesting a sidebar with both centers and the Head Start ECAP team.
Sidebar. Sound good, guys? Family homes are sending their delegation to meet with the nation of. And we're back. I believe the sidebar has concluded. And I'm going to defer to, since families called that sidebar, I'm going to defer to them to start us off here.
For a vote.
Okay, we are ready for a vote. So with subsection 1 here, let's see some consensus. Again, I'm going to start with family homes. On subsection 1, so I see subsection 1. I see 5s with families, 5s with, I can't see things, Dell licensing, 5s with parents, 5s with Head Start, and 5s with centers. 85. We are now moving on to subsection 2, and we're going to start with, so Lori added this "and" right here to just make this a nice grammatically correct list in part E there. So with families, I see 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3 family home providers, 3 4s, 2 3s, and we'll get back to you here in a second. With Dell licensing, I see all 5s. With parents, I see all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, I see several 3s. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 3s, 5, all 3s. All right, so we're going to lead off with families for their comments for the folks who made 3s. Family homes, excuse me.
Our concern is with number 5, where it says that that the evaluations must be conducted twice a year. Oh. Yeah, but it's 2-5. A child's progress at least 2 times per year. If it's a home provider and they are not involved in early achievers, they are not going to have the tools or resources or wherewithal to do this. That's right.
We also have a concern just in general with number 2 because of family child care providers who are new or who are not participating in early achievers may not know where to get the resources. And so I would like to have put in the parking lot that Dell have these resources available to these providers, like through links or forms or something to that effect.
Okay, your concerns have been noted, and we're adding the parking lot, but because we had 3s, we're not stopping it here. So Centers also had many 3s. They were all 3s. So who would like to speak first?
So our concern is just that through this, we want it to be noted as just a training piece for Dell, that could be verbally, because in a lot of our practices, we verbally talk daily with our families on how the progress is going. And so sometimes that might not be something that we could hand a piece of paper to, but that is a normal practice, that if that's how we want to operate our center, that would be acceptable.
Noted. That's a note of intent there. Do centers want to add on anything else to that? Cool. And so that is subsection 2 has consensus. Let's move to subsection 3. That's what she did. Okay, and so again, 4 here, or 3 is a little bit broken up here, but an early learning provider must, and this is the meat of it here. So I'm going to start off with taking consensus with Dell licensing, 5s, parents, 5s, Head Start ECAP, 5s, centers 5s, and new subsection 3. Nope. Okay. Head Start ECAP. I see 2 3s. No, I'm telling her we're on 3. Oh, Katie is still showing a 3. So as noted, we'll get back to you in a second. And family homes, I see 1 4 and the rest 5s. Miss Warren.
This time it was my fault. So on A sub I, this was just really confusing to us when we read it. We were like, does this mean the bus? What's going on here? And so we just want to make a note to Dell, and we just went over and talked to them in an unregistered sidebar that we
All good.
we would like to see that wordsmithed a little, so it's a little clear that we're talking about changes to the transportation plan that the provider provides or whatever it is.
All right, I'm looking at my attorney over here, wherever he is. Okay. Okay. Anything else from Head Start? Cool. That's full consensus. Was it 0085 has concluded.
So that means. So that means as we've concluded we've reached consensus on all of child outcomes and all of family engagement and support. Nice job. Great progress this morning. We have about 5 minutes to the break. Just a heads up. Right now, again, sorry for the moving around, but we're going to actually go to environment 0281. This is breast milk. So this one is the only one in environment we're doing because it came back from small group right as we ended last month. And it was requested by everyone that we immediately touch it because it was fresh in our minds. So it's the only one we're touching that's not in our normal topics. Yes. 10:15. Okay, so for 0281, to remind everyone. Yep. So I'm not going to start reading yet, but as a reminder, it's gone through multiple subgroups. We did reach consensus on a portion of them last month, sent 3 of them out. They concluded at the end, came back, and again, people were hoping, while it's fresh in your minds, to bring it back and hopefully reach consensus. That's why we're doing this out of order. So when you get to it, the only things that we need to reach consensus on are 2, 5, and 8. Subsections 2, 5, and 8. Everything else we reach consensus on. So we're only looking at 2, 5, and 8. Does anyone else need more time to get there? Yes. All right, team caucus. How much? Okay.
So if we're going to do a team caucus, could we sort of have a raising of the issues so that we know what the dispute is here?
Yep, so let's go to number 2. This one, actually, the small group ended up keeping it the same. No changes to number 2. And the reason why, if we open up the comments, was the clarification about containers. So
right,
we could actually...
For the purposes of the caucus, what do the people who want to call the caucus, what is their big concern?
I understand.
That's what I want to know, so that we can discuss that same issue here and whether or not we would agree with that.
So I think centers you guys called the team caucus. They want to check their public comments.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so 2 didn't change. The changes were in 5 and 8. 5 and 8. And you'll see that actually 8 was moved into 5, so it's really just 5. All right, so what we'll do is put a team caucus on the clock, and then that'll bring us to the break. So we'll let you know when the team caucus is up and it's time for break, but you guys can choose to take yours as you wish. So we'll come back together at 10:30. Come back together at 10:30. That's time for break if you want to take it, unless you guys need to continue to team caucus. Okay, so we'll be back at 10:30.
What? She was trying to Well, I'm so glad. I thought she said, for a while. Someone else tried to tell me. She's like, no, I have one baby. She loves her baby. I promise. Whenever you're done.
Kerrigan. All together. All the rest of the
All right, we're gonna get started again. I see still a few people missing. So you can help us get people back while Lori boots back up. We'll get started. I want to give everyone a heads up that after we go through 0281, it's our first TA resolution queue. It's about licensee absences. So if you want to start thinking about who you might send out for that, that's up next. After we do breast milk, the next one is 0015, licensee absence. And that's when we're going to send people out. That's on cue. All right, so for 0281 breast milk, we'll start with just number 2. Reminders, just 2, 5, and 8. So number 2, the small group, the TA resolution group last month decided to keep number 2 the same. Again, the conversation that happened here was that there was clarification on exactly what container means and how that can be applied here. So the group felt comfortable with that at a weight of 6. So I'll measure consensus on just number 2 at a weight of 6. Okay, family homes, we have 5s and 3 4s. Licensing all 5s, parents all 5s, Head Start ECAP all 5s, and centers all 5s. Okay, then we'll move to number 5. And since that cuts, all of 8 was cut into 5, we'll just start with the language in 5. So I'll actually read this one to you. Number 5, frozen breast milk may be kept in the refrigerator at a thermometer of 39 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature. I don't know, sorry about that. At a temperature of 39 degrees Fahrenheit for up to 24 hours after thawed and not served after 24 hours. That part is a weight of 6. A, if not used after 24 hours, label do not use and return to parent at a weight of 4. B, return any unused, fresh, not being previously frozen, refrigerated bottles or containers of breast milk to the parent at the end of the child's day, or label do not use at a weight of 4. So I'm going to try to do all of 5 together. We'll measure consensus on all of 5. Centers are all 5s. Head Start ECAP are all 5s. Parents, do you have a comment? Okay. Question? Okay.
Ours is dying, for the record. So just out of curiosity, is there a reason that A and B are weighted separately, or can we just put weight 4 underneath like all of it? Or I'm just curious if there was a logic behind that. We're just confused.
So it was not in the small group. Also, Dell licensing, either you vote. Go ahead.
Okay, I have 2 things. First is in response to that, I think it's because the primary thing is weighted A6, and then the A's and B's are noted as lower. We agree with everything in this except that we believe the word should be must, not may, be kept in the refrigerator. We don't want, yeah, I mean, that sounds permissive. We want it to be a must.
You agree to that change. Okay. I see a lot of nodding. Parents, do you have okay. Do you have also a response, though? Leo, could we change the batteries on here? Do you have something else? Okay. So with the change to must, I'll measure consensus on all of 5. Okay, so centers, Head Start, ECAP, and are all 5s. Parents are all 5s except for 1 4. Licensing, is that I can't tell what that is. Okay, all 5s from licensing. And then family home providers, we have mostly all 4s except for 1 3. So Kat will state her concern. 2 3s. Thank you.
I would
Two
like
threes.
it to be noted somewhere that if a parent gives us written permission to dispose of the breast milk, rather than giving it back to them, that would be permissible.
Okay. Thank you. So while Lori is making that note, I'll just measure consensus on striking all of 8. Again, 8 was moved into 5, so just want to confirm everyone's okay with that. Striking all of 8, licensing all 5s, parents all 5s, Head Start ECAP all 5s, and centers all 5s. Family homes, okay, all 5s, thank you. Okay, we finished breast milk. Nice. That is very exciting. A lot of discussions on breast milk. I'm glad we're there. Okay. So now we're moving into intent and authority 0015. Intent and authority 0015. This is on licensee absence. So we'll go ahead and send this to TA resolution. In the prep team call, there were major proposed changes for 1 through 4. 5 did not have any, but we thought we'd send them all together just in case as you review 1 through 4. So 0015, licensee absence. We'll ask that you send 2 to 3 people right now, and Zane will take you out. And so we'll have either Tyler or Debbie go with you.
And
So we're gonna-
in case you don't know, the room is right by the front entrance of the hotel to the left if you're walking out.
We're going to have a 1-minute team caucus so that everyone can get on the same page for your group on where you want to head. All right, looks like everyone has sent out folks to the group. Anyone else need more time? 1 more minute? Okay. Hello. Okay, let's get started, everyone. Family Home has sent out their folks, so I think everyone's ready. Okay, we're gonna get started again in full group. Okay, everyone, so if you follow the cue, the next one is 0331. On 150. It's on page 150 in the big document. You'll notice that there is an asterisk beside 331 because the prep team call had some changes. We noticed that also this change refers to 335. So I'd like to propose that we move straight into 335. And then when that subgroup comes back, the TA resolution comes back, we'll send people out for 331, and they'll have the language from 335 ready for them. If you didn't follow that, that's okay. We are on 335. 335 is on page 154. Page 154, 0335, fiscal restraint. This was negotiated in Issaquah, and it's the first time it's up for consensus. Okay. Looks like people are cold again. If someone would mind tell Rachel that, thank you. She's not there. Okay. Sure. Hopefully that helps. Temperature control is tough in here. Okay. So let me start on 0335, physical restraint, number 1. An early learning provider must have written physical restraint protocols pursuant to WAC 0490 and implement such protocols only when appropriate and after complying with all requirements of WAC 0330 and 0331. A weight of NA. We're going to read through the whole thing first. I appreciate the excitement. Number 2, Physical restraint must only be used if a child's safety or the safety of others is threatened and must be A, limited to holding a child as gently as possible to accomplish restraint, B, limited to the minimum amount of time necessary to control the situation, C, developmentally and culturally appropriate, and D, performed only by early learning providers trained in a restraint technique pursuant to WAC 0106, subsection 9, at a weight of 7. 3. No person may use bonds, ties, blanket straps, or car seats, high chairs, activity saucers, or heavy weights, including adults sitting on a child, to physically restrain children. A weight of NA. Number 4, licensees, center directors, assistant directors, program supervisors, lead teachers, or trained staff must remove him or herself from a situation if they sense a loss of their own self-control and concern for the child when using a restraint technique if another early learning provider is present. If an early learning provider observes another staff using inappropriate restraint techniques, the staff must intervene at a weight of 8. Am I at 5? Okay, thank you. 5, if a physical restraint is used, a licensee, center director, assistant director, program supervisor, or lead teacher must report the use of physical restraint as soon as possible to the child's parent or guardian and within 24 hours to the department pursuant to WAC 0475. B, assess any incident of physical restraint, determine if the decision to use physical restraint and its application were appropriate. C, document the incident in the child's file, including the date, time, early learning program staff involved, duration, what happened before, during, and after the child was restrained. And D, develop a written safety plan with input from the child's primary care or mental health provider, parent or guardians, and a department licensor to address underlying issues and reduce need for further physical restraint. If 1, physical restraint has been used more than once, and 2, a safety plan is not already a part of the child's individual care plan at a weight of 7. Okay, so now we'll circle back up to number 1, having a physical restraint protocol at a weight of NA. Family homes are all 5s, licensing all 5s, parents are all 5s, Head Start ECAP are all 5s, centers are all 5s. Okay, number 2. When physical restraint is allowable and how at a weight of 7. Measure consensus on number 2. Okay, so centers would like to call for a team caucus and then a sidebar. How about 2 minutes each? Does that sound good? Do you have a question?
So before we start, we're just trying to figure out what culturally appropriate means in this context. And we would like to know the training, because our understanding would be the training would encompass whatever you had to do, and you would have to do it consistent with that training every time. So we're concerned, we just don't understand the language.
So who wanted that? Absolutely wanted the sidebar so we can understand where that came from? Because it was added.
No, culturally, it was,
Oh, it was? Okay.
it's black.
Oh, okay.
It's the developmentally that's new. So I guess the question is to licensing. Do you guys want to team caucus first, or go ahead and get the question answered?
So he's looking up definitions, but we would be looking at some cultures may not do not looking at a child. I mean, it really is responsive to the child's culture. We're not so much looking at having to do it the same way for every single child, because you want to be looking at what is appropriate to that child.
I think that the question is, because this training does not exist from Dell yet, there's a lot of uncertainty and question about what it means.
Do you still want a team caucus? Okay, so we'll put 2 minutes on the clock for team caucus, and at that point you can decide if you still need a sidebar.
totally true. You really can. I mean, So team caucus is over, and we're moving into sidebar, which has already happened. That's what I'm saying. She's in New York, yes. Victoria's a little bit of a Victoria's really, they're both going through, yes. But Victoria's really very intentional. And the thing is, they're reflecting working on herself, and there is tension there that's different. Because I think Jules is going to be on to because they're not monitoring. I was really surprised. I was really surprised
Okay, centers, since you guys called for the team caucus and sidebar, I'll go to you first. Centers? We'll hear from you first. Do you have any proposed changes, or do you want to try to measure consensus? Okay. All right, so we'll go back to number 2 and measure consensus on number 2. Centers have suggested, never mind.
Our concern here is we would like to make sure that everyone has limited restraint policy training. We don't know what that actually entails right now, and we would like it to. We're concerned about approving something that doesn't exist yet, and what we would like to see happen is for this to be in the form of something that we can do as part of our orientation for new staff. So we are provided that information by Dell, and we can provide them with that training upon hire before they step into a classroom, so that we say, here is all about our limited restraint, here's what it entails, here's how we do this, you know, so that they actually know before they're in that situation. This is, because we don't know anything about this training, this is really concerning for us that you could get in a situation where you didn't have someone in compliance, but you had a situation where you had to intervene for student safety.
So we've added that restraint training to the parking lot. That would be something that we'd want Dell to implement. Do you have
And then we
changes?
were going to strike culturally appropriate, because if you have to restrain a child, you have to restrain a child.
So it would say developmentally
Just leave
appropriate instead.
developmentally appropriate.
Okay, parents had a comment.
I just wanted to touch on the training part, because number 1 says that you must have written physical restraint protocols pursuant to the other WAC and implement such protocols. So as far as the training goes, I think it states it in there.
No, it's not provided by Dell yet.
Okay.
So centers are looking for.
Okay.
So centers,
Yeah,
you're
I don't
looking
know
for
what the
Dell.
WAC says, so.
Dell provided guidance. Okay, so the proposal is to strike and culturally appropriate. So C would just say developmentally appropriate. I'm going to measure consensus on that unless you have a comment right away.
I just wanted to say that I absolutely agree that this needs to be on the implementation list. It needs to be looked at for how it's going to be done. But I don't want to go so far as to say Dell will provide the training. Rather, they'll provide the resources to it, or they will try and facilitate whatever. But we don't know what that's going to look like yet. We just agree that it is an implementation concern.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and strike and culturally and measure consensus on 2 with that new language and see where we are. So measuring consensus on 2 with the striking of and culturally. So licensing is all 5s. Parents have a comment.
Could we take a 2-minute caucus?
Yes.
Thank you.
2-minute team caucus on the clock.
Funny.
And he didn't. He didn't remember. He's like, I don't remember. He said it. So it's the same.
But I understand. There was a year
Can we get a sidebar with Dell? Sure. Right. So we are in line.
and they play all the machines that have like. Just like oh my gosh, she did it to me, and I tried it too. Yeah, and like it's now, I tried it, it's way too nice. I like, oh, I had a butterfly, I would try it. I don't disagree with you. My husband, he did like it. He already never fights this, and I would have to do this.
So parents are asking for an additional 3 minutes of sidebar. How you doing, parents? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and ask centers and parents for your comments since you asked for Team Caucus and Sidebar.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Couple things. We're really not ready to vote on this because we think that 335 should also be looked at. Should also be looked in addition along with 490 for the culturally appropriate restraint.
Can you tell me what section 490 is in?
Policies.
Policies. So that's one that we haven't looked at yet.
Correct.
Yep.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so they should be looked at together.
Okay. So you would say, are you telling me that this applies for the entire section 335 or just the number 2 that we're working on right now?
Possibly all of it. Plus, possibly all of it, but what we're really looking at is under number 2 where it's culturally appropriate. But we were just talking about removing that word.
Okay. Let's hear from centers and then we'll hear from centers and then we'll make a decision on what to do with number 2.
So our concern is both with the 335 and 0490 because the training doesn't exist. And how can we provide a restraint policy when no training exists? So it's sort of this cyclic thing. So it has to exist first so that we can have a policy, so that we can do a training, so that we can implement that training. And we cannot agree to either of those things until that exists. And we cannot do it at a weight of 7. can we table it, please? Until that training can actually be provided to us and we know in what form, at what level, accessibility, all of those things have been nailed down, please.
So licensing?
If Dell is going to be developing and designing a training, I cannot believe that it would be done prior to this process, because this is something that we're going to be taking time after the rule is written to do that. There are restraint trainings available, but not necessarily from Dell or Dell approved. But so I'm not saying we don't table it. I'm just saying that I do not believe that Dell is going to come up with the training prior to February. And so it would end up having to be one of those WACs that Dell will make a decision on and then also have to provide the information on it.
Head Start UCAT.
So we're very sympathetic about this because it's not that restraint training doesn't exist. It's just very hard to find and extremely expensive. And thus, even though it's out there, it's unavailable to most of these programs in the room. And I have not ever heard Dell express any interest in starting to provide this kind of training before. So I don't even know if there's an intention on Dell's part to more widely offer this kind of training. So I can actually, I mean, I think this section is very important and we definitely want something in here, but I understand the hesitation here because it would be very difficult to find training and it might break the bank. So trying to figure out whether or not Dell will commit to that kind of thing would be very helpful, at least in to have some sort of commitment from Dell.
And I would agree that we should be able to at least tell you that yes, we're going to develop it, or no, we're not. I just know that even if we were going to develop it, it will not be done by February.
So we've heard a proposal to table the whole number 2 until January, which is when we would touch program administration, so we could put them side by side. And then Dell saying that perhaps that wouldn't even be long enough to table it because there might not be a distinct answer. So with that information, if you still have a comment, Nicole.
So this language, so in my understanding, D has been added since we've started this process. If we're tabling it, can we table it with the understanding that if training isn't accessible, that it shouldn't be in the WAC? Because we want this training and we want to do it. We agree that this should be in here, but restraint is already something that carries huge liability for providers. So then if something's also in the WAC that then we did it illegally, the liability for a provider is going to be huge. And so we're very uncomfortable with that kind of exposure.
So I think I hear that maybe D would be tabled, but we can measure consensus on A through C. Parents, that's different from your original proposal.
We're not going to table C. We're going to vote on A, B, and C. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. It's up to you. That's my proposal to you right now.
With striking culturally appropriate in C?
So I think we should keep the striking on the table.
Culturally. Okay.
Parents had suggested tabling all of 2 until we get to the other section that it lines up with. So at that point, I removed the strike so that when you get to that section, you see it as is. But now it sounds like maybe there's a new plan afoot. Yeah, if you guys decide that you want to vote on everything but D right now, that's the question for the parents.
Okay, we could just do A and B right now and table C and D for when program admin section comes up. So I'll go to the team leads and see how people are feeling. we'll hear from parents first.
Actually just have kind of like a general question since the training has been an issue. So say if something were to happen today, like and a child need to be restrained, since nobody's trained, how would that be handled?
Okay, so the proposal on the table is still to measure consensus on A and B only. So again, I'm going to go to the team leads and see if people feel comfortable with tabling C and D. Yes. Whoever wants to start.
Family child care is okay with voting on 2A and B and is okay with tabling C and D.
Until January when we talk about program admin.
Correct.
Okay. Licensing? Yes, good with that. Parents? Good with that. Head Start ECAP? Good. Centers? Good. All right, so I'm going to measure consensus on 2A and B right now. And that's a weight of 7. 2A and B is a weight of 7. Okay, licensing are all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Family Child Care, all 5s. Parents, 3 5s, 2 4s, and 1 3. So Charisse, can you please state your concern?
Okay, so my concern is, one, that Dell isn't already given this support in this training. Two is when adrenaline's pumping, even for police officers, your strength in your mind and everything is a little different than if you are calm. My whole thing is I understand that it has to happen, but for me as a parent, it's hard to know that, one, you haven't had any training. You're going in there kind of, not saying, again, that it's not supposed to happen, but when all that chaos is going, to me, the potential of harm to yourself and that child is so much greater.
Thank you for stating your concern. The top. Okay, so we've noted 2 A and B, we've reached consensus on a weight of 7, and with 2 C and D, we'll review in January, and we'll put that side by side with 0490. All right, so as Lori's making the notes, I'll move us into number 3. So we'll measure consensus on number 3, what you must not use for restraint, and that's a weight of NA. Number 3 will measure consensus on language and weight of NA. Yeah. So we have family, child care, and then licensing comment.
Mine is the same as licensing. It's that no person may use. It probably must not. I don't know. That word may, again. Well, it says no person. Never mind.
Licensing?
I'm hoping somebody can remind me of why we went to a weight of NA, because I'm not remembering.
It's on the list of terrible things you can't do to children.
In a different section? Yeah. It's already weighted.
I do believe that's what terrible things you cannot do to children. That's what we were just referring, is why it's rated in A.
Okay, so I'll try again to measure consensus on 3 at a weight of NA. Family child care, all 5s. Adult licensing, 5s, and 1 4. Parents, come back to you. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Okay. And then we'll move on to number 4. Okay, these people must not use restraint if they have a sense of loss of their own control. If someone else must be present and they observe somebody doing that, then they must intervene. So weight of 8 for number 4 and a weight of 8. Measure consensus on number 4. Adult licensing, all 5s. Family child care, all 5s and 1 4. Head Start ECAP are all 5s. Okay, we're going to call for a 1-minute team caucus.
No, but that's where it would be, and that's how you would address it. She sent me an email the other day, and you said, I was doing research the other day on somebody, and I'm like, oh, look at that, I'm trying to figure that. And that's what she introduced herself as. That's probably true.
Parents, do you need more time? We're going to add 1 more minute for parents.
They're really concerned that people might restrain their child.
I actually I have a comment. This whole section is really hard for me to vote on because of the references in the previous ones to 0490 and then also to, hold on, I'm looking at it right now. Where's the number? 0106, which talks about underneath subsection 10, it says that they must complete the department child restraint training or Dell approved equivalent prior to being authorized to restrain an enrolled child. And this one that we're voting on right now talks about trained staff must remove him or herself. I feel like these are all connected, and I know that we tabled 2C and D, but I feel like we keep coming back to this, and so I go back to, I think we should table this until we can all look at them together. Because I am not going to be able to vote on this in a 100% genuine, integrity-based way. So I just need to admit that. I'm not saying they have to tell us what the training is, but the commitment first, and then second, how does that all line up? Are they being double weighted? Is it duplicative?
Is there sections of prep team have proposed language, so we need to send a TA resolution. So I propose we skip that one. The next one is supervising children, 0345. It's actually in the same boat where there are two subsections that the prep team had proposed language. So I propose again that we skip that one, which would bring us to 0350, supervising children during water activities. The prep group asked Dell for a definition of water activities, so I have that here. And Lori probably just got it in her email, so we can pull it up. If not, I can read it from my email. Lori. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we are on 0350 under interactions and curriculum, supervising children during water activities. So I'll start off with the definition of water activities.
So just to clarify, to go to the beach, you would have to have one-on-one being near a body of water?
So I think that's a... I'll
just
let licensing answer the question.
Yeah, isn't that all, there's different ratios for different ages of children. This is just, the reason for this definition was so that we would exclude things like sprinklers and the water table so that we weren't all confused about that.
Okay, so then we'll jump into 0350 using that definition to guide us throughout the section. So if you need to go back to it, let us know. We can switch back and forth. This one was negotiated in Issaquah, and then prep teams reviewed this, and the only thing that came out of it was the need for the definition. So this is the first time it's coming to full consensus. All right, so 0350, supervising children during water activities. Number 1, during water activities, an early learning provider must meet all supervision requirements of this section and WAC 0345, NA, weight of NA. Number 2, a 1-to-1 staff-to-child ratio must be met for infants and toddlers. Early learning program staff must, A, hold or have continuous touch of infants, non-ambulatory toddlers, and children with special needs as required. And B, keep toddlers within arm's length, a weight of 8. Number 3, an early learning provider must have written permission for water activities from each child's parent or guardian, a weight of 7. 4, for water activities on or off the early learning program premises where the water is more than 24 inches deep, an early learning provider must ensure A, a certified lifeguard is present and on duty, B, at least one more staff member that regularly required for the staff-to-child ratio is present to help supervise children preschool age and older, at a weight of 8. Okay. Number 5, if a swimming pool is 6 feet or more in width, length, or diameter, and 2 feet or more in depth, an early learning provider must provide a ring buoy and rope, a rescue tube, or a throwing line and a shepherd's hook that will not conduct electricity. The life-saving equipment must be readily accessible and long enough to reach the center of the pool from the edge, at a weight of 8. 6, if an early learning provider takes children off-site to an area with an accessible body of water more than 4 inches deep, for example, a park with a lake or a stream, but children are not engaging in water activity, there must be A, at least one more staff than required in the staff-to-child ratio, and B, at least one attending staff person must be able to swim at a weight of 8. Okay, that's the full section, so we'll review, take some consensus on just subsection 1 at a weight of NA. Yes.
This is just a question and request. Can we put the language, the definition language up on the screen simultaneous somehow so that we can have that in context of when we're looking at this? Please?
Okay, does that help with measuring consensus on number 1? Or do you have other comments? Okay, so I'll measure consensus on number 1. So we're just talking about number 1 for now. Head Start ECAP. Don't have everyone's hands up. All 5s. Parents, we'll come back to you. Licensing, all 5s. Family, home providers, all 5s. Licensing?
When I look at the definition, I almost think we should take out or near, because that is already addressed by if you're going there, but they're not going to be playing in the water. So I think it would even clean it up a little more if it was clear that the intent is that children are going to be in the water.
Okay, that was Centers your concern? Yeah. Okay. So we'll cross out, oh. Give Lori a minute. So it'll say, water activities refer to early learning program activities in which enrolled children swim or play in a body of water that poses a risk of drowning for children. Water activities do not include using sensor tables in an early learning program. Okay, so that is our new definition. Using our new definition, I'll measure consensus on number 1 at a weight of NA. Centers, all 5s. Head Start, ECAP, all 5s. Parents, 1 5 and 4 3s. Licensing, all 5s. And family home providers, all 5s. So parents.
So we're okay with this, assuming that when 0345 is discussed, that we come to a consensus on supervision, but that one's going to a TA group. So we're approving it on an assumption that we're gonna get a consensus on that. But that's our hesitation to just give it a full 5. So do you want that note added for this one? Please. Well, so 0350 references that we have to, that centers licensed care has to follow supervision requirements as set forth in 0345. Or pursuant, I guess is the word. So we're hesitant because it's not reached consensus or even come out of TA group yet. And we're voting that, yes, we agree that they should have to follow that. So I don't know how to say that better. Sorry.
The good thing is it's in queue for this weekend, so
right,
we'll get to
absolutely. And that's why we're like, okay, let's pass it. Let's move on. But we do want that concern noted.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So let's move then to what's number 2 is the one-on-one staff to child ratio. So we'll measure consensus on number 4 at a weight of 8. Do you have a comment or are you, okay, you're just voting. So we're measuring consensus on number 2, which is right here, 101 staff to child ratio. Head Start ECAP are all 5s and licensing are all 5s. Family child care, 2 5s, 2 4s. Parents are you? I'll wait. Centers are all 5s. So just waiting on parents. Take your time. Okay, 1 minute team caucus for parents.
Have to be completely, she can't even hire a teacher. And they're saying the subs that they're going to be in the classroom for more than 2 weeks. So when we're covering anyone on maternity leave or medical leave, or we were like, ah. Make it.
All right, parents are ready, so we'll hear your votes on this section. Section 2, subsection 2. I can't see everyone's hand. I think, okay, parents are all 5s as well. So we've reached consensus on subsection 2. Then we'll move on to subsection 3, written permission and a weight of 7. So we're measuring consensus on number 3, written permission, a weight of 7. Centers are all 5s. Head Start ECAP are all 5s. Parents are, come back to you, all 5. Do I see 4? 1 4 from parents. Licensing all 5s, and all 5s and 1 4 from family child care. We'll move to number 4, where water is more than 24 inches deep at a weight of 8. Measure consensus on number 4. Licensing are all 5s. Family child care all 5s. Head, oh wait. Parents all, parents all 5s, 1 4. Head Start ECAP are all 5s. Centers are 3s. Please state your concern.
My concern is just that, you know, we're close to the sound, so a lot of times we will go like collect shells and things like that, but of course the kids want to put their toes in the water, and this says I need a lifeguard to be able to do that, and so that would prevent that experience of the kids being able to go and do that, and so I feel like we're limiting our curriculum and what we're able to do because of this criteria. Yeah, so that's another question. It says the body of water more than 24 inches, and obviously the sound is more than 24 inches, but if they're not going into the water, but they're collecting shells or sand dollars and they're, right, and their feet touch the water, does that count? I mean, like, these are the questions that when we're taking kids on field trips that we need to kind of know the answer to.
So we'll get licensing's response to that.
I think number 6 addresses that. The intent of these others is that if you're taking them there for water play or for water activity, then you need these requirements. If you're taking them to a place that has bodies of water, then you need to do this instead, because you're not intending on them getting in the water. Kids getting their toes a little wet because they're picking up shells is not the same as kids going wading in the riverbed.
So more of an implementation thing for licensors to realize that if we take our kids to the sound and they're getting shells and they're a little wet, that's not. Okay.
Okay, so Lori, can we capture that concern? Okay, great. Thank you. I missed it. That was fast. Okay, great. So then we'll move on to number 5. This is for a pool that is 6 feet or more, weight of 8. So measure consensus on number 5. Family, childcare, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents are all 5s. Head Start ECAP 5s, and centers 5s. Great. Number 6. So this is when you're taking children off-site, body of water more than 4 inches deep, at a weight of 8. Licensing are all 5s. Family, childcare 5s. Head Start ECAP 5s. Centers 5s. Parents 5s. All right, nice job. You're all set on that one. So we have 9 minutes until lunch. Let's go ahead and get started on 0354. I'll probably be able to read through all of them in the time frame, and then that'll help you have something to think about during lunch. Okay, 0354, indoor learning space capacity. What page is this for people? 163, right? Okay, 0354. 1. To define capacity, licensed indoor learning program space must have a minimum of 35 square feet per child in attendance and further comply with the requirements of this chapter. Weight of 4. A. Center early learning program space must provide 15 additional square feet for each infant or toddler using a crib or playpen if the crib or playpen is located or placed in the sleeping or play area. Weight of 1. B. Floor space under tables, desks, chairs, and other equipment used as part of the children's activities must be included in the overall capacity. Weight of NA. C. Office or kitchen space that is inaccessible to children and not intended for their use must not be included in the overall capacity. Weight of NA. D. An early learning provider may use the napping area as early learning program space if the staff removes mats and cots when not in use and children have free access to the area. A weight of NA. Number 2, the following indoor space must be counted in the overall capacity. Must not be. The following indoor space must not be counted in the overall capacity. Thank you. A, unlicensed space. B, hallway space that is used for emergency evacuation or is not approved to be used for the program activities. C, bathrooms and diaper changing areas, including 24 inches surrounding diaper changing areas and hand washing sink, unless the diaper changing area has a 2-foot high barrier as applicable. D, laundry areas. E, closets. F, stairways. And G, floor space occupied by shelves or permanent built-in cabinets that are not intended to be accessible to children. Or early learning programs, staff, equipment, including but not limited to file cabinets, desks, and other office equipment. All of that is a weight of NA. 3, a large licensed indoor gross motor activity space can be used to meet the requirements of outdoor play space, WAC 0145, but not counted in the overall capacity if A, the space provides 75 square feet per child for the maximum number of children listed on the license, or the provider rotates groups of children, and B, the space is safe and appropriate for activities otherwise performed in an outdoor play space, a weight of NA. Right, that's the full section. Circle back to number 1, subsection 1, defining the minimum square footage. There's a mixed weight. Family childcare are all 5s. Licensing are all 5s. Parents are all fives. Head Start ECAP. We have a mix of fives, fours, and threes. And centers, all fives. So we'll go back to Head Start ECAP when you're threes.
So this is fine for the most part, but so we always come back to the challenge of whether this is aligning with the fire marshal or caring for our children. See, these 35 feet per child is for the fire marshal. This is about determining how many exits you need. For Dell, it's kind of something else, and is it per child or per person? And we just want to flag everywhere where we have this stuff in it, and really make sure, going back, that we know what we're talking about. That this is 35 feet of activity space, it's per child, all of that kind of stuff, and that we're not going to end up with constant disagreement with the fire marshal.
Okay, thank you. And Lori's capturing that concern.
You know, we're a little, so I don't know whether this 35 feet per child, I don't know whether this is work that Dell needs to do with the fire marshal or what. But I think that there's been some conflation because of this 35 number, because what's been happening is there's this 35 feet per child, which is sort of best practice for childcare, and and then we have the fire marshal who needs 35 feet per person to determine their exit strategy for things. And I just don't know. I don't entirely trust that this is all going to be resolved because it's been such a huge problem in the last few years. Yes. And it actually has a huge impact on our bottom line because we keep having to reduce the number of children in a classroom because of disagreements between the fire marshal and Dell.
So Judy has a response to that.
So the fire marshal determines overall capacity for a building, and Dell can never exceed that. So that's number one. So, but other than that, they are very separate because Dell is looking at programmatic space, child accessible space, and we are, there are areas that we do delete because they're diaper changing or, you know, there are other things. So it would be a very strange situation that our capacity would ever be higher than the fire marshal's. Generally, the fire marshal is looking at people in a building. We're looking at numbers of children in a space and looking at the things that we cannot consider as programmatic space for children. We want children to have 35 square feet of accessible space for them.
Okay, thank you. So all of the comments have been noted, but we did reach consensus on number one. So I'll move on to number two and measure consensus on number two, space that must not be counted as part of the overall capacity. That's a weight of NA. So measuring consensus on number two. Licensing are all fives. Family child care, all fives except for 1, 4. Head Start ECAP all fives, centers all fives, parents are all fives. Okay. Number 3, we're talking about the gross motor activity space. That's a weight of NA. So I'll measure consensus on number 3. Family child care all fives, Dell licensing all fives, parents all fives, Head Start ECAP.
Number 3. Oh yeah, so number 3.
Okay, there are 3s, and centers are all 5s, so Head Start ECAP will hear your concerns.
Are you ready? Okay, so we're assuming that this indoor space is intended to help urban areas, and we understand that. But we also have some concern about kids never going outside anymore, and how important that is for development. And so I'm not sure if this is in another place or whether we want to recommend that something be added here, but we would like there to be, if it's not here, if it's someplace else, then we're good, but some requirement for an outdoor plan for children if they're using this indoor space as their outdoor space area. Does that make sense? Right, so they need some sort of plan, like park, field trips, how many times a week they're going to go out, whatever.
It is in program.
Okay. Okay, good, thanks.
Designated time outside is in program.
Thank you. Okay, so we reached consensus on that full section, and that brings us perfectly to lunch. I saw the other group came back, so during lunch, I encourage you to team caucus on what happened out there, and we'll start there after lunch. Thank you, everyone.